moral convictions and ethical practice and things of that nature. And he really lived that, I think. Well, I think it's fair to describe Howard's best houses in particular as sort of really well-made objects, as things in which all of the pieces somehow fit and go together and complement one another. There aren't any sort of gratuitous gestures in Howard's really good houses. I mean, the materials are well chosen. They're put together they're put together impeccably. The sense of the inside and the outside and how one resolves the differences, you know, the passage from one to the other is something that modernists were very concerned about, and Howard was very concerned about. But you get a sense, like in the Zale-Lipsche house, for example, which I think square foot for square foot is probably his best house, is the sense of everything is sort of there. Not too much, nothing excessive. Everything is there and it kind of goes together and impeccably crafted. Like a great concern for detail, for precision, but not in a fussy, mannered way. Just this sort of almost thoroughgoing, workmanlike, but absolutely integrated piece, so that everything fits, seems to fit, and the choices of materials, the way in which the light is handled, the way in which one moves through the various spaces is all very rigorously thought out, but never, I think, seems really forced. Just seems to be the way things are supposed to be. Howard, having early in his career, had spent time in Europe, had met Corbu, got to know some of the Bauhaus people, and when he came to design the Temple Emmanuel in the 50s, he managed to recruit, I think, really, Annie Albers to do some tapestry, some weavings, Georgi Kepish to do do a wall with kind of this beautiful gold inlay, and do windows, and he sort of continued to revere those people. And in the temple, he had a chance to do a very soft kind of Bauhaus project. Soft in the sense that the materials were, you know, this wonderful Mexican brick, not stucco, but inside this wonderful integration of art and architecture. I think the temple, along probably with the Hall of State at Fair Park, are two of the finest art and architecture collaborations in this part of the country, in Texas, certainly in the Southwest. But here's Howard spending as much time on the windows and as much time getting Richard Filipowski to design the candelabra and the various kinds of fixtures, and making sure that the art and the architecture are integrated and are part of a certain kind of seamless whole. And the art isn't simply trucked in. It's not plop art, as we say. It's art that's conceived in terms of its space and where it's going to be, and how it's going to work, what job it's going to do. So that I think that building, for lots of other reasons, but particularly because of the way in which art and architecture is integrated particularly into the sanctuary piece, is are kind of really lots of Howard's great interests are pulled together in that one space. I think the light, the sense of it's an inspiring space. I think it's an uplifting. It feels like a spiritual space, and the art and all of the other things simply enhance that. So I think Howard really hit a home run by being able to bring so many of his concerns, architectural interests and concerns and convictions together in one space, in one building. And I think it's a very, very important building in his work, and I think generally. And it's rare to see it anymore, that kind of integration. I miss Howard a lot. I mean, because for some of the things that we've talked about before, I mean, I miss his orneriness, I miss his conviction, I miss his kind of moral integrity. As difficult as he could be sometimes, he was always serious and committed and full of conviction and full of opinion. And he was just a great person, particularly when I was just learning this job, so to speak, as a writer and an architectural journalist. He was a great person to bounce ideas off of, because he would always give you an answer. And it was seldom one that you really wanted to hear, but it was almost always supportive and almost always helpful. I mean, helpful in the sense of clarified things for me. So he was this great sounding board for me towards the end of his life. And at times I would just, at times it sounded like, he sounded like somebody from out of another era, and as indeed he was. I mean, he was not part of the scene. You know, he was not fashionable in that sense. But he had this framework that of this sort of background, this way in which he thought about architecture as a part of a larger whole, and would expound at considerable length and with great conviction. And at that time, he was for me, it was more than refreshing. It was sort of often inspiring. He kept me honest, is the way he used to say it. And would sometimes write me notes at the paper telling me where he thought I had let somebody off the hook, or I had said something that was just a little too trendy or fashionable, and, you know, do you really believe this? And so the letters were sort of almost like records of some of our conversations, in which he was sort of, he wanted me to do a good job, and he wanted me to be concerned about the right things and not to be chasing fashion. So I personally miss him a lot, because I miss, you know, it's always great as a writer, as an architect, or to have a kind of mentor like that.